There's a lie we've all been sold, dressed up as romance. You know the one. Everything happens for a reason. When it's meant to be, it will be. It sounds beautiful on a coffee mug. It sounds terrible in real life, because when it's meant to be usually means it's about to hurt, annoy you, and force you to face every single thing about another human being that you'd rather avoid. Welcome to real love. There's no soulmate waiting in the wings. There's just two flawed people trying to put up with each other with some shred of dignity and tact. We were raised on a script we never agreed to. It wasn't really our fault. Blame the movies. Blame 2 decades of romantic comedies, breakup ballads, and perfectly curated couples on Instagram who somehow never fight, never get tired, never say the wrong thing at the wrong time. They handed us a fantasy and called it a blueprint. You'll be living your ordinary life, and then in a coffee shop or a grocery store line, you'll lock eyes with someone who loves the same obscure films you do, hates the same things you hate, and somehow carries the exact same childhood wound. Something clicks. Fate, apparently. Roll credits. Here's what actually happens. Most people you meet come with baggage you didn't order, a music taste you'll quietly judge, strange little habits, and a family member who ruins every holiday gathering. And there's no getting around it. The soulmate myth is basically engineered to keep you single forever, because nobody, not one single human being on this planet, is going to check every box on the list you built in your head. Think about that couple you envy on social media. The ones who travel together, finish each other's jokes, seem locked into some kind of cosmic rhythm. They had a fight last night about a wet towel left on the bed. Again. Because real life doesn't hand out permanent magic. Loving someone has far less to do with admiring their best qualities, and far more to do with choosing again and again to deal with their flaws. And here's the twist nobody tells you. The more convinced you are that there's a perfect person out there somewhere, the harder you become to love. You stop tolerating friction. You stop tolerating disagreement. You stop tolerating anything less than flawless. So you cycle through people the way you cycle through a streaming queue, one mediocre episode in, and you're already searching for the next thing. Except people aren't shows. They weren't built to entertain you. They were built to challenge you. The idea of a soulmate works like emotional anesthesia. It numbs you to the fact that love takes actual effort. If you haven't found the one yet, well, it just wasn't meant to be, right? Convenient. That way you never have to admit that maybe the problem isn't the other person at all. Maybe it's your own inability to sit with someone real, flaws and all, confronting you in real time. So, let's agree on something right now. Throw out the idea that some cosmic chart is going to hand you the perfect match. There's no other half of your soul floating around out there. There's flesh, bone, baggage, and willpower. Love isn't a lightning bolt of destiny. It's something you build, piece by piece, on purpose. Anyone still chasing a soulmate is basically hunting for a unicorn with decent Wi-Fi. And the moment you let that myth die, you'll discover something far more powerful. Real love was never about finding the perfect match. It was always about choosing the beautiful chaos of loving an actual imperfect human being. We are, as a generation, painfully picky. We can spiral into an existential crisis choosing an ice cream flavor, and somehow we also think we can find the love of our life based on a horoscope, a well-angled selfie, and whether or not someone swiped right. We've become connoisseurs of pointless red flags. He drinks his coffee wrong. She doesn't like the same shows. All of it wrapped in this blind, almost comically naive faith that somewhere out there is a person perfectly calibrated to make us happy without any friction whatsoever. This modern romantic optimism is almost a cosmic joke. We believe so hard in the perfect match that we start treating ordinary human beings like defective products the second they show a crack. We complain that he talks too much, that she snores, that they don't get our niche taste in film, as if it's a crime not to understand us instantly, as if love is required to arrive pre-assembled exactly the way we pictured it. But you know what's actually hiding behind all that optimism? Fear. Fear of facing what relationships really are, because accepting that no one will ever meet every single expectation means you have to grow up. And growing up is hard work. So it's easier to keep searching, keep comparing, keep rejecting, and give it a nicer name. Self-love, we call it, except half the time it's just narcissism with better branding. These days, the smallest deviation from what we expect sets off an alarm. He didn't catch my subtext. She doesn't like deep dish pizza. He responded with a flat laughing emoji instead of a real one. Our standards have climbed so high that love itself seems to have given up trying to meet them. And there's another layer to this. Social media is a zoo of unrealistic possibilities. You see someone brilliant posting something deep and profound, and your brain whispers, "This person truly gets me," without you knowing whether they've done their dishes in the last 2 weeks. Digital life has turned into an endless buffet of potential soulmates who never make it past the appetizer, because when it's time to sit down and pay the bill of actual reality, nobody wants the check. Everyone wants the thrill of the meeting. Nobody wants the grind of the relationship. Here's the tragedy in all of this. Chasing the fantasy of the perfect person only leaves you more alone, because nobody, not one soul on earth, passes through the filter of perfection. Not even you. And yet, you sit there with your emotional spreadsheet open, marking down every misstep, every misplaced comma, judging without end, convincing yourself you're protecting your heart when really you're sentencing yourself to a very refined kind of loneliness. Real love begins the moment you stop searching for a reflection of yourself and start facing the harder, stranger task of loving someone who makes absolutely no logical sense but chooses you anyway. Because if perfection is the price of admission for your love, the problem was never the other person, it was you. You know the exact moment love usually dies? It isn't betrayal. It isn't a screaming match. It isn't even the cold silence after an argument. Love, more often than not, dies on an ordinary Tuesday night, somewhere between a distant goodnight and undercooked rice at dinner, while you sit there wondering how you ended up sharing your life with someone who uses a toothbrush like they're operating a power drill. Nobody warns you about this part. No romantic comedy ever mentions that the person who once seemed pulled straight from a fairy tale will, without fail, eventually annoy you with the way they chew, the way they breathe when they sleep, or a joke they insist on repeating that was never actually funny. These are the micro-frustrations, the quiet erosion of modern love, chewing through a relationship like termites in a wooden table leg, silently, day after day, until the whole thing collapses under some flimsy excuse. Has this happened to you? A road trip playlist that once felt like it was made just for the two of you now sounds like acoustic torture. That cute little laugh turned irritating somewhere along the way. Good morning stopped meaning anything and turned into pure logistics. Did you pay the electric bill? The dog threw up again. Love becomes a shared spreadsheet of household crises, laced with a little too much sarcasm to be comfortable. And in the middle of all these tiny domestic tragedies, what do most of us do? We assume we chose wrong. We assume someone better, someone more compatible, someone who just gets us without having to explain, is out there somewhere. Except they're not. Everyone carries a suitcase of quirks, flaws, and strange habits that only reveal themselves once the initial spark fades, because it always fades. That's not pessimism. That's maturity. The real issue is we were taught that frustration means failure, when in truth, it's just life quietly reminding you that even love comes with a bill attached. And yes, there will be days you look at your partner and think, if they bring up work one more time tonight, I'm climbing out that window, and yet you stay. Not out of some strange masochism, but because loving someone for real means exactly that. tolerating the annoying and still choosing to remain. Love isn't built purely on grand gestures. It's built on the daily micro-resistance of holding your tongue when they mess up again, of laughing politely at a joke that lost its charm 3 years ago, of understanding that happily ever after is a construction project with a lot more or less involved than anyone ever told you. So the next time you're ready to walk away over some small, silly thing, the way he says a filler word constantly, the way she organizes the fridge like it's a religious ritual, take a breath. Maybe, just maybe, love is hiding exactly there. In that pile of small aggravations, you learn to forgive one day at a time. There's this fantasy people love to repeat, the idea of two souls that fit together perfectly. Sounds lovely. Should work great for furniture assembly. In real life, love has nothing to do with fitting together. It has to do with friction. Sparks fly, things get messy, and there are tangled conversations at 11 at night after a day that already felt like too much. Do you know what actually separates the couples who last from the ones who become another statistic? Their ability to negotiate emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even in complete silence. We treat love like a lottery ticket. Either you win big, or you keep piling up failed attempts until you become an expert at spotting red flags. But here's something that might shatter the whole fantasy for you. It isn't love itself that holds a relationship together. It's negotiation. Love is simply the reason you don't throw in the towel during the first storm. Negotiation is the skill that keeps the boat steady when the water gets rough. Negotiating doesn't mean surrendering everything, and it doesn't mean playing the tyrant either. Negotiating means knowing exactly how far you're willing to bend for love without losing yourself in the process. It means not throwing a fit because he prefers cold showers. It means not declaring war because she wants to see a movie every single weekend. It means understanding that the person you love isn't a clone of you, isn't your servant, and isn't your walking therapy session. They're their own person, with their own history, their own quirks, and their own demons. And there will be nights when those demons decide to dance with yours. Most of us were trained to demand, not to negotiate. We want the other person to read our minds, anticipate our needs, adjust themselves to fit us, and somehow do all of that without ever losing their good mood. And the second they complain, push back, or simply get worn out, we say they changed. They didn't change. They just refuse to become your personal project. If you want a relationship that lasts, learn this one basic lesson. Love is choosing which conflicts are worth having. It isn't about avoiding conflict altogether. It isn't about erasing every difference. It's about deciding who's worth fighting alongside. Disagreements will happen. Crises will happen. There will be a night where one of you goes to sleep furious and the other dreams of a world with zero difficult conversations. And still, if the next day you're both willing to sit down, talk, and try again, that right there is love with a capital L. Emotional compatibility isn't a gift the universe drops in your lap. It's something you earn through a whole lot of friction handled well. The hard conversations are what build intimacy. The unrehearsed apologies are what build trust. Saying "I don't agree, but I understand" shows that you know how to love without needing to control. In the end, the secret isn't finding someone who thinks exactly like you. It's finding someone you can disagree with without losing yourself. Real love isn't about being right. It's about knowing how to repair things together, because a perfect fit is for toys. A real relationship is built by two people willing to reshape themselves with intelligence, patience, and a healthy dose of shared humor. Now it's time to bury something. Put on your best black outfit and take a breath, because today we're laying to rest one of the most toxic ideas that has ever haunted your love life. And no, it isn't your ex. That one should have been cremated a long time ago. What we're burying is the fantasy of ideal love, That ghost that still lingers around every relationship, whispering promises of perfect harmony, flawless compatibility, and effortless connection. Because here's the truth, as long as you're clinging to the idea of the perfect partner, you'll keep bouncing from relationship to relationship the same way you abandon a show 3 episodes in because it wasn't quite what you imagined. Ideal love has to die for real love to breathe. And this isn't a symbolic funeral, it's a painful one. There will be grief, there will be resistance, there will be negotiation, and there will be that moment where you catch your own reflection and finally admit the problem was never them. The problem was my illusion. Nobody talks about this part because the fantasy of perfection sells. It sells in the movies, in the books, in the songs, and in every dating algorithm that swears if you just match with the right person, everything will magically fall into place. It won't, and it's not because you chose wrong. It's because there is no version of love without some amount of pain. Loving someone means getting disappointed and staying anyway. It means getting hurt and choosing not to walk away. It means accepting that it will sting sometimes, that it will be boring sometimes, that the spark won't always be there, that there will be more mismatched opinions over Sunday dinner than you'd like, and still deciding to stay. Burying ideal love means admitting that no human being will ever fill every emotional gap, heal every unresolved wound, or meet every expectation pulled straight from a soap opera. Nobody is going to read your mind. Nobody is going to save you. And nobody, no matter how much they love you, is going to make you happy every single moment of every single day. That job belongs to you. And here's the strange thing. The moment you finally let go of perfection, something shifts. You start seeing people for who they really are, not as walking disappointments, but as genuine possible partners. You stop demanding and start building. You stop comparing and start participating. And in the place where endless frustration used to live, something called mature love finally shows up. It doesn't photograph as well for social media, but it lasts far longer than 3 months and 1 expensive dinner. This funeral is honestly the greatest act of love you can perform, not for someone else, but for yourself. Because as long as you're holding out for something ideal, you'll keep missing everything that's actually real right in front of you. You'll live in a permanent state of dissatisfaction, forever waiting for the next emotional upgrade to fix your life. So go ahead. Attend the funeral of ideal love. Grieve it properly. Write it a long, dramatic letter if you need to. But bury it, flowers and all. And when you walk away from that grave, go live a love that's real, full of stumbles, full of flaws, and still worth choosing. Because only the people who let go of the fantasy are actually ready to love for real. Here's maybe the biggest irony about love. It goes wrong, always. Yes, even when it goes right, some part of it still goes wrong. And truly loving someone fully exposed, heart on the table, is basically signing a contract with inevitable failure. It's saying, I know you're going to annoy me, hurt me, disappoint me, and I'm choosing this anyway. If that isn't courage, nothing is. Somewhere along the way, we started treating the beginning of relationships like a disguised job interview. Nobody walks in and says, "Hi, I sometimes get passive-aggressive when I'm hungry," or "Nice to meet you. Occasionally I shut down emotionally because my father never once told me he was proud of me." No, we show up polished, curated, projecting stability and a great sense of humor. And the truth always sends the invoice. Eventually, that's where the most overlooked piece of the entire equation comes in. Forgiveness granted in advance. Not the sugary soap opera kind of forgiveness, but the cold, clear understanding that things are going to go wrong, and that this is simply part of the deal. The other person isn't a glitch in the system. They are the system, and the system is buggy, just like all of us. You're going to mess up plenty. You'll say something foolish. You'll forget something important. You'll ignore a message in the heat of an argument. You'll hurt them with a look, with silence, with distance. And the person standing beside you is going to do the exact same thing, because we're all human beings trying to love each other with broken tools, many of them handed down from families who thought affection was either a joke or a debt to be collected. And the only way any of this actually works is by forgiving before the wound even happens. Not as some kind of emotional doormat, but as someone who understands that love demands an almost absurd amount of flexibility. It means knowing that even when the person beside you is at their worst, they still deserve compassion, and so do you. Now, does that mean you accept absolutely anything? Of course not. Forgiveness granted in advance isn't a blank check for cruelty. It's a reminder that you, too, will be the villain of someone's story at some point. That we all have bad days, worse versions of ourselves, reactions that only make sense in hindsight, with a little shame attached. Love was never meant to be a state of constant harmony. It's meant to be lived in friction. It's about getting hurt and healing together, knowing full well that the other person will fail you, and still deciding to build something on top of those failures anyway. Like that old sofa that sags in the middle, but somehow is still the only place both of you fit. So the next time you catch yourself wanting to walk away because things don't feel like they did in the beginning, maybe the real issue isn't that the spark faded. Maybe it's your refusal to accept that love, by its very nature, is frustrating. And precisely because of that, it's beautiful. Because the people who truly know how to love are the ones who know how to forgive ahead of time. The ones who signed the contract knowing full well that somewhere down the road everything would fall apart a little, and chose to stay anyway. That isn't failure. That's maturity. That's love with a scar on it, with a stumble in its step, with a whole history behind it, the only kind actually worth having.